Excellent. So I'm Marla Riekman. I'm a soil management specialist with Manitoba Agriculture, and I get to spend my life's work talking to farmers essentially and agronomists about soil health issues and soil just issues that sometimes impede crop production. And the issue that we're talking about today is compaction. You guys have already been through the pit with Megan, and did she show you the shelf? Did you see the shelf? Yes? I got some nods. Okay. And the shelf is essentially the compacted area where the wheel tracks from Adam's operation are going through. And so that shelf there, when we take off the topsoil, it's basically that compacted roadbed down below in the topsoil. And so, Adam, why did you, first of all, this is controlled traffic farming, or CTF, we'll talk about. And Adam, why did you get interested in trying CTF on your farm?
Well, we had been through a series of wet growing seasons, and we could see the obvious impact from traffic-induced compaction across the landscape. Like during wet periods in the growing season, you could see the yellowing traffic lanes, and we just thought that it might be worthwhile addressing that on our farm. And so looking to solutions, controlled traffic farming was something that we came across. And initially I sort of disregarded the idea, mainly because I was under the impression that freeze-thaw cycles, like our annual frost event, dealt with soil compaction. But as you dug into it deeper, you start to realize that there are long-term impacts from heavy equipment traffic that aren't alleviated by natural processes like freezing and thawing and wetting and drying, because those processes only happen, if they happen at all, it's probably only once per season, relative to the surface where those processes work quite well at dealing with compaction. And so yeah, based on that, we just decided to start considering that as we were making equipment purchases. We were already set up with RTK guidance, and equipment-wise, a lot of the stuff was already in place, so we didn't have to make a large initial investment. And so we just adopted the system, and from there, yeah, I wouldn't go away from it now. There's benefits for us, even outside of the stuff relating to soil compaction and crop growth, but with doing research, like the research that we do, it really enables that for a grower and simplifies the process and a better data collection and that. Yeah.
So you were talking about how when you were adopting it, you were thinking about like how when you were making equipment purchases, this would actually tie into your operation and like fit within a CTF plan. So what kind of equipment are you using? How does this actually work in practice, let's say?
We're already running quite a bit of tracked equipment, and a lot of people will work back from their combine because that's not something you can really modify wheel gauges on a combine. But for us, we were running a Track Lexion, which was on a same wheel gauge basically as Track Challenger tractors. And we see value in tracks in a CTF system because you're minimizing your compacted area, but also we get away from rutting with tracks too, so we don't have to renovate tram lines after a wet season because of rutting and stuff like that. And one of the biggest challenges we had was probably with regards to the harvest header, because a lot of harvest headers, even though they may be sold and advertised as 40 feet, they're actually not that. If you take a tape measure out, it's 39.5. But that's gotten easier in recent years because some of the companies are starting to address that with their manufacturing. They're bringing out header widths for harvesters that line up with standardized CTF widths, like 40 feet. So you can go buy a header from Claus now and it'll be 40.5, or Honeybee was always at that, but MacDon offers, they're going to be bringing a 41-foot header to market too. So all of that's some of the challenges we encountered, but they're getting dealt with slowly.
Yeah, because I remember it was many years ago when you were starting it, we were chatting at Ag Days, and I see you got the Honeybee hat on, and how you had finally found like your Honeybee would be the one that actually had that 40-foot cut width, and that was the thing that you needed to figure out how to make work basically within the system.
Yeah.
So 40 feet, everything's got to be a multiple of 40 feet.
Yep.
And you can visually, if you can't see it in the field where some of these tracks are, you can see where the flags are. So where Don is standing, the white flag, and going across that way towards where you were with John and over to the tall flag. So there is a white flag every 40 feet. So on those tram lines where we're standing There was a tram line where the soil pit was dug. That is your combine. The red flags are every 80 feet. So that is your drill.
Yeah.
And then every 120 feet is the yellow flag, including the big one there. And that is going to be the sprayer. And so when Adam talks, as we keep talking about this, he'll refer to a main tram line and an intermediate tram line. So main tram line is going to be that one there that will have received all 3 pieces of equipment, whereas an intermediate tram line will only receive 2 generally pieces of equipment.
Yeah. Or even just one.
Or even
It might
just one.
Be the harvester.
Exactly. Occasionally it could just be one. So there's one big piece of, well, there's a few pieces of equipment we haven't touched on, like, you know, if you swath your canola occasionally, which I know you do. And occasionally you may come out with a heavy harrow or something to deal with some of the residue.
Yeah.
But the one thing we haven't talked about or flagged off is the grain cart, which is a big piece of equipment that needs literally a big piece of equipment that needs to travel across the field.
Yeah.
And so what do you do when you're managing your grain cart?
We drive throughout the field on the tram lines, but when we're unloading on the go, because our harvester doesn't have an auger long enough to reach a grain cart that's 40 feet away, we'll move off the tram line with the grain cart. But there are solutions coming in that regard too. Like we run Lexian combines, and they have a factory ordered option now with a 2-piece unload auger that would allow you to unload onto a grain cart on the go while staying on your tram lines. So these things are slowly coming I guess there's enough demand out there in certain parts of the world for this stuff that they're actually taking the time and making it. And yeah.
Don, did you have a question before? No?
No, I was just thinking, do people know very much about Adam's
Research project? No.
master's thesis?
Yeah. So Adam did his master's degree on his farm studying CTF. And we're going to talk a little bit as we go in. We can, if you guys have questions for him, he'll probably answer them based on what he found in his thesis. Like things like, I don't know, I mean, it's a long day, you guys are tired. Maybe you're interested in knowing about how he measured the impact of the tram lines on the soil. And so Adam, how did you measure that?
Yeah, we use these actual single ring infiltrometers, and so we just when we were measuring traffic impact on infiltration, we measured the CTF tram lines and then untrafficked soil, but we also looked at single passes of various pieces of equipment on the farm, like sprayer, grain cart, combine. So we'd set up a random traffic treatment where we ran these traffic treatments for 3 years in a row, driving over the exact same spot. And so in the fall, at the completion of the study, what we did was we went out and measured infiltration and bulk density and things like that within untrafficked soil and then across the traffic treatments. And then, so what we're able to show is that traffic obviously impacts soil measurements like that, but also there was a difference within different types of traffic. A sprayer and grain cart were worse than, say, a track combine and a track tractor. And these were all just single passes, that were done in some cases 6 months prior, but you could go out there with your infiltration ring and it looked the same otherwise. There's no equipment tracks or anything out there, but we'd be able to locate it based off of they're always done in the exact same spot and measured with RTK, pop it in the ground, and you'd see that impact. So, and then of course untrafficked always performed hands down the best. Yeah.
So this would be your untrafficked spot here,
Yeah.
approximately. So I need a volunteer with a phone that has a stopwatch on it.
Get closer so you can see.
Come on in. But as well, I need a volunteer with a phone with a stopwatch. Everybody's like, wait a minute, I have a phone with a stopwatch. Okay, you ready? Who's marking me? Okay, is the cameraman ready? So I'll let you know when to start. So the reason why I'm using the saran wrap is to keep from just hitting like the water splashing and actually sealing the surface off. So I'll tell you when to start. Okay, go.